and how we can make sure that our Wyoming members are taking full advantage. And we know, when working with our members in Nebraska, that every dollar counts. And if we can identify more dollars and subsidies for you, we certainly want to do it. So, Josh, I'll kick it back to you to lead off the next couple slides, and then I know Randy will drive from there.
All right, great. Yeah, Randy, happy to cover the first couple slides and then let you introduce yourself and go through.
I'm already having trouble running the slides, so I'm going to change it to this view so it'd be a little bit easier just to make sure we can get it done.
Yeah, no problem. So I will caution everybody that I know just enough in this space to be dangerous. I'm by no means an expert. That's why we have Randy with us here today. But just to level set a little bit, these universal service funds are administered by USAC, and as you can see on the slide, that there's significant dollars out there. And so this helps you subsidize your broadband connectivity, your infrastructure maintenance and management. And like Randy will talk about right now, and he showed us a quick analysis from some publicly available information about, there's really 2 boxes where it seems like most of you here in Wyoming are applying for, but really there's 9 categories in total that you would be eligible for. And participating in the consortium opens them up. So if you're applying individually, you wouldn't be eligible for those other buckets. But he'll talk about that in more detail. And again, I don't want to read slides to you, but you can get up to a 65% discount on some of your broadband services. And there's some advantages, like I just mentioned, to participating in the consortium, and it helps you save on costs because you can recoup those dollars that you spend. And then this is just really simply who's eligible to participate. So most of you all on the call here are public and not-for-profit hospitals. You can see also community health centers, public health departments, skilled nursing facilities. I know some of our hospitals here do have attached nursing homes on there, and then a consortium of the above. So one of the benefits to having us in Nebraska and all of our hospitals participate is that it creates the right balance for eligibility between rural and more urban facilities, and gives more facilities the opportunity to participate and become eligible. So I'll let smarter people talk starting now. And Randy, thanks for doing this and putting it together, and I'll let you take it away. But for everybody on the call, Randy has been really great with us, and I know he's happy to answer questions and can give us good insight into what next steps might be and how this could be helpful.
Great. Thanks, Josh. And thanks for the kind words from Nebraska. We appreciate our partnership there and enjoy bringing extra federal dollars into Nebraska and soon to Wyoming as well. So luckily, we're close to you guys. We're here in Colorado. It's snowing a little bit here this morning, but it's only a 2-hour drive from where I live up to Josh. So expect for us to be part of your community as we move forward. All right, I'm going to get into the meat of our presentation here. And we did some analysis in Wyoming, and we're able to do this because USAC puts out a public data set of all folks that participate in the program. And so we pull that into our database, and we're going to have a little fun with that in a bit. But we pull that into our database so we can do searches and kind of understand how people are participating in the program. So when we ran the analysis on Wyoming, we found that 8 of the 32 hospitals were not participating. And this, if you don't know if you're participating, or if you know that you're not participating, talk to your buddies. It is not insignificant dollars that are available to you to participate. And we'll go through that in a bit. 41% participating as individual filers. And I'll show in a minute how when you file that way, you automatically disqualify yourself for some of the eligible spend categories in the program. So we'll go through that in a bit. And then the rest were filing in 8 and I think that's 11 that made up the 34%, filing in 8 separate consortiums. And so there's a lot of different methods. Doesn't seem to be a lot of discussion about best practices in this program. And so that's what we're here to do kind of today, is to lead that discussion, to show what others are doing with regards to best practices. So when I look at the hospitals that are participating in the program, and this is some of the things that Josh alluded to earlier, you're using the program and filing annually. And in most cases, what we've seen is you're using a consultant, whether you're filing individually or as a consortium, and almost everybody does. The program is very complex and it changes. And so, you know, if you're not in this business, it's hard to stay up with it. If you're in the healthcare business. Another thing that usually they've been doing the same thing for years, at least 5 years that we have the data for. And most of those seem to capture some to all of their circuit expenses. But that's where it stops. And that's where we're going to kind of show that there's many other categories of eligible spend that people don't file for. And we just think it's leaving money on the table. And we're going to show what those are coming forward. And some of you are going to find being surprised that you've never heard this before, and that these things have been eligible all along. All right, so here are these are the 9 basic categories of expenses that are eligible in the program. And when I say the general categories, because with each one of these boxes, there's multiple things, but this is really the broad category of the most popular things in the program. So all of your circuits, and most of you are getting most of these. And if you look at the eligible expense list, this is your internet circuits, this is your Ethernet circuits, SD-WAN, MPLS. If it's a data circuit, it qualifies. And so, and internet as well. And most of you are getting that. Some folks pick up their PRIs, although those are kind of on the way out for SIP, but that's kind of where we see it stop. And then if you look down, edge routers and switches, those also qualify. Firewalls, and here's where I'm going to point out the difference between an individual filer and a consortium filer. Firewalls are only an eligible expense if you belong to a consortium. You folks out there that are filing as individuals, you're ineligible to file for firewalls and firewall expenses. And when we bring up the equipment, that includes all the maintenance, licensing, and warranties that go along with that over the life of that equipment. And when you add that up, that's a significant expense. I will grant that those expenses don't happen every year, but in those years that they do, those are significant expenses. And if you can peel half the expense off of that, it's just something that you would want to do. Then I'll also talk about network management and maintenance. So if you purchase infrastructure to manage your own network, software, equipment, those kind of things are eligible. If you hire a third-party IT company to manage your network, that's an eligible expense. This is another expense that's only eligible to consortium members. So you folks that are filing individually, if you have a third-party IT network support contract out there, you haven't been filing for this because you've been ineligible. Joining in the consortium, you would become eligible for that expense. Things to get these circuits ready in your buildings also are eligible expenses. And for some of the larger hospitals that have offsite data centers, and even some of the smaller ones with offsite admin sites, being part of a consortium makes these sites eligible. And many times those are the type of sites with a lot of telecom expense. And so when you look at the matrix, we've got 3 basic categories that are only eligible for consortium filers. Again, the individual filers are not eligible. So we want to do next is have a little fun, and we're going to run a little contest, and we're going to need a volunteer. So think about it. We're going to have somebody volunteer their hospital, and we're going to run their data in front of everybody. And we're going to analyze how they've been participating in the program over the last 5 years. And so if someone can help me with the chat to make sure we know who is coming in, I will pull the screen over. And what that's going to do, by the way, if this is us putting our money where our mouth is. If you have filed for more than circuits in more than 2 of the last 5 years, I'm going to send you a gift certificate for $200, or a gift card for $200. If by chance that you have only filed for circuits in all of the last 5 years, or even if just in one of the last 5 years, then then we win the contest, and you handshake agree to join the consortium. So I'm going to pull in my database here, and I can run searches on there. Do we have a volunteer? I see some chats come in. Do we have?
So far in the chat, it was just a question that John sent an answer to.
Okay.
Josh?
Yes. Hi, Doug.
This is Doug McMillan. Cody Regional Health will be happy to volunteer.
All right. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug. So Cody Clinic would not be part of your organization?
No, they are not part of our organization.
And you're located in Cody, Wyoming?
That is correct.
So I look at this and say, you're not participating in the program at all.
No,
No.
we are West Park Hospital District.
Yeah,
Oh, that's you. Okay. Sorry about that. I did not know that. All right. So you are West Park Hospital District. All right. So I'm going to filter that out by typing in. Sorry, I lost my participating state.
Randy, West Park's 2 words, I think. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
All right. Sorry it took so long to get there. Okay. Does this look accurate? Your vendor being Tri-County Telephone Association?
I'll
That's
refer-
correct.
All right. So this is your filings. It looks like you've been filing for internet. This is probably a PRI, some fiber, Ethernet, internet access. And by the way, you can see that you are filing as a consortium using the American Telemedicine Connect Consortium. We'll take the data all the way back, it looks like, to 2027. And then we'll look back at those service types. So we have internet access, again, Ethernet access, T1s, fiber, Ethernet, T1. Those are your PRIs again. Internet. So when I look at this and I analyze that and go back to this is where you're participating. So I'd like to welcome Cody, West Park Hospital District as the newest members of the consortium. Is there anybody else that would like to have a look? And by the way, I'll mention, if anyone doesn't want to put their data out in front of everyone, we had a volunteer, so that's great. We thank you guys for doing that. If anyone would like to do this one-on-one, just chat that in. We'll make an appointment and I'll give you a call and we'll do this one-on-one with your hospital.
And Randy, you have 3 in the chat that would like to do
Okay,
it.
let's
Yeah.
do it.
So we got South Lincoln Medical Center is the first one that popped up.
South Lincoln.
Yep.
Okay. Also, filing as a consortium with the same vendor. Looks like we have applications that go back 5 years. All West Communications sounds like the right vendor. And we have fiber, which are your data circuits, internet access, internet, Ethernet, managed Ethernet. There's an installation service. So that is something that's outside of a circuit. So that's one right there. All right, installation of equipment. So there's 2 services that are outside of the top 3 boxes. They win a gift card. I'm going to need somebody to capture that information of where I need to send that and who I need to send that to, if that's okay. You want to chat that in because I'm going to do this for the others as well. But I'm going to point out that, you know, even in the installation of the equipment and installation of the equipment here, there was not what this is managed Ethernet, and that might include equipment, and that's probably why that was included as an installation service. So that's good, but what I don't see is firewalls and other types of eligible expenses that we would expect to see if somebody who's maximizing their use of the program. So South Lincoln, congratulations, you beat me in the participation challenge. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one.
We've got Weston County Health Services is next. And whoever's on from South Lincoln, go ahead and just chat in, you know, who we should send, to whose attention we should send your prize.
Okay, so looking at Weston County, looks like we have applications that go back a few years. Looks like they're filing as an individual. My guess is with a consultant. You don't need to confirm that. So as an individual, you have seen in the earlier part of the presentation, you've automatically disqualified yourself for some of those eligible expenses. And one of those would be firewalls. So I wouldn't see you have any firewalls, but routers and switches are not unique to consortiums. As an individual, you could be and should have been filing for those all along. I don't see any of those. I only see the types of things, the circuits that I was talking about: internet access, Ethernet, internet. There's your PRIs, internet. So there's never been a piece of equipment, even though routers and switches have been eligible. But then again, filing it as a consortium, you would be more eligible for things like firewalls and IT support and those types of things. So welcome to Weston as another new member of the consortium. Thanks for playing the participation challenge. Who's the next one on the list?
We have Wyoming Medical Center.
All righty. Urban location. So it requires a consortium to file for that. Urban centers can qualify as long as they're part of a consortium that's mostly rural. We do have that with the NHA Connectivity Consortium. So that's why you're seeing these guys. You'll see probably a more lengthy list of applications, given probably a larger size. So we do have applications that go all the way back. Oops. Looks like the consortium you're filing under is Banner Health. As I get back to that screen, I apologize for that. That's not gonna. All right, so the screen runs a little bit slow when I'm in a conference call like this. But let me just say, sometimes when I see somebody like Banner Health as the consortium that you're filing under, that might be a corporate mandate where they're doing the filings for you, and they say we've got a corporate function to do that, and so let's just have you do it that way. So just going to point that out, that you may not have the option that you think you do to join the consortium, but maybe you do, and we'll certainly do the analysis. And so when you look at it in 2022, we've got looks like CenturyLink is your vendor, WAN circuits, T1, DS1 could be PRIs, Ethernet, Internet, DSL, T1, Internet, Ethernet, as you go down the list. So you are right there with the rest of the folks in the top 3 boxes of spend. It looks like there's a lot of room for improvement with regard to infrastructure. And again, and not only infrastructure, but somebody, I'm going to look down here real quick. Medical Center East, Medical Center. I want to look at one thing, support services. So maybe that's an admin building. But it seems as somebody that you might be of your size might have an offsite data center that I don't see, or any other offsite admin centers you should have been filing for all along. Anyway, that's the kind of the opportunity that I would see for Wyoming Data Center or Wyoming Medical Center. Sorry about that. Is it?
Yeah, Randy, one more, Crook County Medical Services.
Kirk County? Is that KIRK?
CROOK.
Oh, Crook County. Okay. All righty. Does this look like in Sundance and Moorcroft and Hewlett? All right, we have applications that go back, looks like 5 years, filed as a consortium under the American Telemedicine group. And so then we look at the services. We have fiber, ISDN, internet access, channel service unit. I think that's a data service. CSU, DSU. Okay, so I think that is a piece of equipment as it relates to the telephone business. We don't see that filed very often, but that's a CSU, DSU. So that's one piece of equipment. All right, and installation. All right, so I'm going to, because again, this is outside of a circuit in more than 2 of the last 5 years. Technically, you guys are a winner in the contest, but I'm just going to point out switches, routers, firewalls, network management, also eligible but never applied for. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement, even though you technically win the participation challenge.
Hey, Randy, this is Mike with NHA. I'm looking at the screen here. On that specific unit, I don't want to misspeak, but it looks like total amount committed says 0. So it looks like through your coaching sessions now, they applied for that. Did they receive dollars for that application?
No, what happens is if they don't use the funds, they get decommitted. And so when we pull the funds, it just shows 0 as committed. It was probably committed at one point, but we give them credit for applying for it.
Of course, yeah.
Are there any others before we beat this one to death?
So Randy, I don't see any other volunteers. We do have a question from Nicola at South Lincoln, and I don't know if this is a good point, but she asked, can we visit about firewalls? Is the cost of the annual software eligible?
Yes. And I qualify that by saying that there are some cybersecurity packages that go on firewalls that are not eligible, but for the general applications and licensing that you need to make the firewalls work, that's all eligible, including the engineering, installation, anything that you would pay for on those grounds, also eligible.
Good to know. Thank you for that information.
Sure. All right, we're going to move on then, because there's some several more important things we need to cover. All right, so some folks who are going to be sitting out there saying to themselves, wow, this seems pretty cool, but I've already got this contract in place with this other group, and we've been filing with them, and we like them. They've been doing their job for us, and so how, I don't want to just have to sever those ties and just do this whole thing over with the Nebraska Connectivity Consortium. So I'm just going to put your mind at ease and say the way you could transfer really any way you choose, and the program allows for you to be a member of multiple consortiums. And many folks, and I would say we work with hospitals across 5 states, and I would say 30 to 40% of the folks we work with have multiple consultants that they work with, and they use their first consultant the way they always have and filed their circuits. And then they use the consortium for some of the consortium only expenses or some of the other things that may not be picked up by the other group. And then over time, you kind of make your decisions on how you want to work. But I would even say, especially in this window, I wouldn't think about severing ties or doing anything different with your other consultants for this application window. And if you have some expenses that look like they're coming up in those other windows and you have a desire to join the consortium, I would encourage you to keep those expenses split at this time, so there's no double dipping. And then you have the kind of because the application window is so tight, and we'll kind of go into that. And there's a good chance your other consultants have already been working on those applications, or maybe even have filed some of those already. Now, we mentioned some of the things that were consortium only eligible, but for some of the folks that anticipate large applications, when you file as an individual, there is a $50,000 cap on projects. And some of these larger firewalls that are out there today, and especially if you look at maybe a redundant firewall application, you could easily exceed that. The consortium, when you file as a consortium member, that formula changes to $50,000 times the number of folks in the consortium. we're up to 40 sites in the Nebraska Consortium. I just checked that yesterday. So we're now, they would now accept applications of up to 2 million per project from the Nebraska Consortium. So right out of the gate, you'd be, if you've got a $150,000 firewall project that you're looking at, you would want to make sure you're in the consortium to take full advantage of that. All right, timing. This is going to be the real bugaboo for Wyoming in this year. We're so glad we met, but we met late in the game. And as we sit here today, I'm going to explain a couple things about the application timeline for this year. So as we sit today, the application deadline is April 3rd. There's some things in the application process steps, especially since in some of the folks that have not been filing, the process steps take 4 to 6 weeks, and in some cases there's 2 of those steps that take that long. And you can see mid-January we don't have much time to spare to hit this deadline when you add those 2 4-week intervals. And when I say 4 weeks, that's an average. They could take 4 to 6 weeks, and we really don't have the ability to influence the timelines that USAC uses for this. So just going to say the folks that are interested in joining, think they have a project that we could do, we're going to need to work quickly. Now, the other thing I'm going to say is 6 out of the last 7 years, USAC has granted a filing extension of 60 days or more. We believe that there are some conditions in place with some new systems that USAC put in place this year that they're causing some trouble out there with the applications and vendors, that there may be another filing extension. Again, they have put one in place 6 of the last 7 years. If they do, that'll put us out until May. And we think that at that point, we would be in very good shape to bring on anybody new. So what we do is we take the position, given their history of granting extensions, that we want to get people poised. And if then the extension happens, then the funding is all set to go, and we're in place with the applications. And so even though it may be tight, we will give it a go, and then hope for the extensions to come into play. So I know that's a little bit wishy-washy, but that's where we are with the timing. And so if anyone has questions about that, and I know people don't want to spend a lot of time and effort on something that may not pan out, so we can consult on that. If you've got specific projects, and the folks that are already participating in the consortium, in the program, have a little better timing, because we don't have to get your sites certified, which is one of those 4-week time intervals. So we've got a little better chance with folks that are already have certified sites in the program. So that's just laying it out, exactly as we can see it today and exactly as we know it with regards to timing. All right, I'm not going to get into too many of the application, but it's a multi-step process, and again, we're right in the application window. Some of the things that we normally do every year with all of our hospitals is go through checkups. We call it an annual checkup, to make sure that we're probing into every one of the expense categories, and that you're looking at them not only this year, but we take a multi-year look at it, and we help you to take a multi-year look at it too, because right now we're in the process of applications for spend that will happen starting in July and a year later through June of 2024. So, if you have let's say a planned firewall upgrade based on an out of life issue coming up in April of 2024, well, now is the time that we need to apply for that in order for you to get funding. But if it's not until, April of 2025, then we know that it's going to be next year's application window that we need to get in. And so we start having you think about this in your planning, because you don't buy this equipment every year, but the years that you do, it requires some pre-planning to get the subsidies. And it's a little different than some people buy equipment. Some people wait till it breaks and then they just buy new. If you do it that way, you're not going to be able to get subsidy, because you cannot get subsidy after the fact on equipment. You have to plan for that. So I always let people know that, you join the consortium, there may be some timing issues the first couple of years on equipment that for whatever reason, you cannot wait to run through the application process and wait for the spending window to buy the equipment. But usually by year 2, year 3, you have figured out a way, and people figure out a way to get their hardware in the program. So it takes a couple of years on equipment to really hit your stride, but we see almost everybody doing that by year 2, year 3. Okay, this is something that we should go through, just so you know. The way the program works is there is a service fee attached to the applications that is 25% of the subsidies that you receive. And so if you don't receive any subsidy for any reason, or you don't use the subsidy for any reason, there's no fees. But most people are using the subsidies and getting the subsidies. So if that's the case, the way that works out is the subsidy is 65% of the spend. The fees would be 25% of the 65%. And it's just a little over half of what you would have spent to what you will spend after all is said and done and all the fees are paid in the program. And we don't invoice for this fee until your vendor, let's say theoretically, your vendor credits you for the money. But it's hard for us to gauge vendor credits and their timing. We time our invoices based on USAC distributions, and we give it some time, and then we send the invoices. But you would never pay the fee unless you already had the credits or had the vendor subsidies from your vendor. All right, next steps. If you're interested in joining, and you can also send any messages off to this general email box, and we'll have the right person get back to you. But there's a membership packet that needs to be executed. One of those documents is an LOA that allows us to enter applications on your behalf for USAC. I'm sure you've signed those with your other consultants. The other is the participating agreement that talks about how we work together and the fees and those types of things. So those need to be executed. And then one of the things we'll immediately do is act on new sites. Either on those sites, we'll need to either file them and make them part of the consortium, or we'll need to get those sites certified. This is probably only a 1 to 2 week process. This is, again, a 4 to 6 week process. That's why we get started on that immediately. And then, we'll schedule the onboarding sessions. And that looks like our annual process, where we're going to dive into all those categories of spend, figure out what you're going to have going on this year, starting in July, now that we're in 2023, and how that's going to look, and then gather the documentations for all the eligible services and your infrastructure projects, and pull that all together to have those applications into USAC by April 3rd. So you can see there's a bit of work to do. I would just say, if you're not sure or you're not confident, and you're not able to work to pull this information together with us this window, the timing will not, as we sit here today without an extension, the timing will not permit much delay. So we would need to move forward with purpose and we would make, hopefully some things stars will align, some things come together and we can get it all in for this window. So, but we would keep everybody in appraised of where we are, what the risks are, and give you our best judgment if something will be worth the effort. So just want to keep that out there, just given the timing is so tight. So that's really what the next steps. If anybody knows they would like to participate, want to join, you can just send an email off to this address and we'll get you the paperwork to get signed up. And we'd love to work with you, even though it's going to be tight. All right. Contact information for Mike, John, and Josh. Project oversight. I've always required oversight, so it's good we've got 3 of them to give that to me. And then this is our team. You don't need to copy all this down if you just send the message out. But I did want to put up, we've got a full team, and you may get contacted from more than one person based on what's going on. And so there are some, you'll see the emails come in as addressed as the consortium, but you see the fedfunding.net as the email address. So there may be a team that's contacting you. All right, that's it for the slides. I think we'll go into questions and answers right now. There are any? I can pull up chat now, I think.
Yeah, anyone, please feel free just to speak up and ask your question, or if you want to chat it in, I'll monitor the chat as well.
Randy, I think you answered it, but there was one question about firewalls, about if the cost for the annual software was eligible.
Yes, yeah, it is eligible. There's always some nuances. There is some software from firewalls that can be a gray area, and some of the multi-services devices that are out there now, and cloud, multi-service cloud applications that sometimes get a little, like I say, gray area-ish, but we'll go through that, and we'll give you our best guess as to whether those kind of things are eligible. But as a general rule, if it's a firewall, any software required to make it work, and any service required to put it in service will all be eligible. It's when you get into the add-on applications, some of the cybersecurity things, that's when some of those kind of things become ineligible. But we would go through that with each of the folks. Rural health clinics are considered separate sites. Jennifer Jones asked a question. And so that's every site that's eligible is a separate site, and it gets a unique number in the USAC scheme. So it'll have a unique HCP number. I'll show you an example of that. This is the Crook County analysis that we did. You can see they have a Hewlett clinic and a Moorcroft clinic, and they have a different HCP number than their hospital. So that's the way it works. And so that's another thing that's great about a consortium, is that it doesn't matter if you're a small rural location or you're a major hospital. It's one site in the consortium, and it counts as another $50,000 to the total cap on project expenses. And like I said, anybody can speak up as well, or just shoot in the questions.
So this is Nicola from South Lincoln Medical. And we currently have someone we're working with. Hypothetically, let's say we want to switch over to the Nebraska Consortium. when is the best time to get a hold of you guys to get that process started? We would stick with our current one for this, the next 6 months. When is the best time to get a hold of you guys?
If you saying that you don't have any of those expenses coming up in the next year and some of those other boxes, and you're just looking at maybe poising to do that in the future, and right now you just have those circuits that you want to apply for this year, then I would say go through the application window, whether that's going to be in April or extended. We're going to wait and see. If it is extended, we probably won't know until later February. But after the filing window is a great time to engage for and get poised for the next filing window. All summer long and fall, that's what we get folks poised for the application process coming up, and then the next application process. So it sometimes feels like a letdown right after the applications go in, but within a week we're right there getting people poised for the next one. So that's what I would recommend.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
In the chat, we have a question, Randy, about the email address to request the membership packet. Is it that the one at the bottom of the slide you highlighted a few
Yep.
times? Yep.
USAC funding at NHA.org.
And yes, everyone did. So I recorded this presentation. I also have the slide deck that I'll send out. So you'll get a link to the recording and the deck.
And I'll also mention, if, for instance, you're a teammate that says, "Oh, I'd like really my CIO to sit in on this," or somebody, just shoot an email to that same email address, and we'll schedule a one-on-one with your hospital and go through the same thing that we went through in the slides.
Yeah, Randy, I think maybe that is it. USAC funding at nebraskahospitals.org.
Is that, that may be it.
Yeah.
That's a typo, and I apologize for
Oh,
that.
I can put that in the chat here. Hold on.
Thanks, John.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you.
So yeah, if everyone did not catch that, the standard email, I had a typo in there, and it is been changed, and John has updated that in the chat. USAC funding at nebraskahospitals.org.
And we'll fix that last slide before we send them out. So
Yeah.
Other questions or thoughts?
This has been very useful information, so I appreciate the invite to attend.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Well, if there's not other questions right now, like I said, we'll send out the deck and the recording. But you can certainly reach out to me or Randy, John, Mike. Any of us can get you to the right place with further questions or comments. Hopefully this has been helpful and useful, and hopefully you find value and maybe an opportunity to move forward here. So again, thanks for your time. And if there's anything else, let us know, and we'll let you get back to your day.
Thanks, everybody.
great. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.